Welcome back, boxing fans, to another great show with Sean on Boxing. As you can tell by the title, we're going to talk about the usual suspects, channels on YouTube that historically have always focused on pushing a racial narrative. These guys are the biggest race baiters, the biggest race pushers on YouTube. And that is, of course, Dante's Boxing Nation and Ego. Obviously, the LDBC has followed these two and continued the trend of channels that consistently want to push race in every video. The irony in this video is Dante is upset that Bud Crawford is pointing towards black boxing fans as being some of the biggest haters towards black American boxers, right? And of course, he wants to deflect and make it about you and me. Because, of course, anything bad in the world that happens, it's always my fault and it's always your fault. It's our fault that it's happening. Even though we have no control, our YouTube channels are smaller, don't have as much traffic, don't have as much members, but it's our fault that, black boxers like Bud Crawford are calling out black boxing fans. And if you've been watching boxing, you know this is nothing new. In this whole diatribe, Dante literally, who's been recognized as a Floyd Mayweather fanboy, right? Literally, right? It's okay if you like Floyd, but it doesn't mean everyone else has to like Floyd. And because people didn't like Floyd, Dante sort of used that as the whole basis for pushing his racial narrative on boxing. And the irony is, if Floyd is who Floyd is, it kind of counteracts all the narratives you continuously push, because Floyd was recognized by old media as pound for pound the number one fighter in boxing. Because, of course, they like to talk about old media and new media, and they are new media. And everybody else is old media, which is all based on racism and not supporting black fighters. Even though, if you're as old as I am, you remember when black boxers like Ali were gods in the boxing world. I know some people love to push that Ali was hated. There's two generations of Ali, 60s and 70s. So you got to understand what you're saying before you shoot yourself in your foot with stupid narratives. When Ali changed over to the Nation of Islam, of course, he did have a lot of negativity towards him. The Nation of Islam was a radical terrorist organization within the United States at that time. That's how they were perceived, right? Anyone who's from South Africa may know Julius Malema. It's kind of like him coming out and say, kill the white man. That's basically what the Nation of Islam was pushing in America during the late 60s. And then, of course, that changed, but not before he actually took a stand against Vietnam. And it wasn't just him that was getting hated on prior to Vietnam. Hippies, primarily white, university students, primarily educated and from affluent families, were also being hated on and criticized, right? Literally, the one university in the States, students got gunned down by police, primarily all white, rich university students, because they were against the Vietnam War. So, people love to push the narrative, but they don't want to give you the true story, the true history. In the 70s, when I started to watch Ali, he was loved, revered. He was a global icon in boxing. No other sporting event, boxing-wise, has ever got as much attention as Ali Frazier, right? Which had 1 billion people globally watch that event. I know for some people, they think Floyd is the biggest thing that ever happened to boxing, but that's because they're casual and they don't know the truth, and they'd rather continue to push fake narratives. And then you had Sugar Ray Leonard, who was a 1976 Olympic gold medalist who became the face of boxing, literally doing commercials all over the United States. And during that era, there was a lot of black athletes doing commercials. Pittsburgh Steelers, Mean Joe Green, doing a Pepsi or a 7-Up commercial, right? Lots. Marvin Hagler did commercials, right, for Right Guard. So there was a lot of black athletes all over old media pushing products and getting paid to push these products consistently. But of course, some people would rather ignore that and act like it's always been an uphill battle and that black athletes were never revered, idolized, and praised in American culture. I guess they don't know Jordan or Serena Williams or Tiger Woods or Magic Johnson. I mean, the list goes on and on, but okay. So we get to this point now that we know why Dante and Ego push this narrative, because that's what pulls traffic to the channel. That's what allows Dante to live in Thailand, right? So that he can live in Thailand and live a very nice lifestyle off the money he makes from pushing race content on YouTube, right? I don't know what Ego does, fucking buys new sunglasses. And then, of course, the whole LDBC has consistently jumped on the bandwagon to perpetuate the same thing again and again and again. But yet, you don't have to go back very far to remember the whole Errol Spence, Bud Crawford scenario, where it was primarily Black American people, Errol Spence fans. I say primarily, obviously not only, that were really pushing hate towards Bud Crawford consistently. And these same fans are still pushing hate towards Bud Crawford. Some of them were hoping Bud Crawford wouldn't get a world title fight at 154. Some of these people were hoping the PBC would blackball them and none of their fighters would fight him, right? If he does fight Funduro, that'll make a lot of these fans angry because they were hoping Errol Spence would get that fight to push and block Bud Crawford from getting that opportunity, right? He gets a lot of hate, garners a lot of hate from Black American boxing fans, right? And the irony is you have these channels talking about how they're the biggest supporters of Black American boxers. But yet the irony with Dante is, who was hating on Shakur Stevenson? Dante was. In this video today that I'm going to show you, who was hating on fucking Devin Haney, or who was it? Oh, on Shakur Stevenson again, right? Ego, right? We also see, of course, that hate transfer, right? Obviously, if you're related to Top Rank and Bud Crawford, you consistently got hate from these Errol Spence PBC fans. Because, of course, you can't just be a fan of boxing. You got to fucking be on my side, right? We saw the LDBC push that back in the day, right? You're either with me or you're against me, right? Literally, they did that. You may forget it, but I don't. And what they did is they hated on Shakur Stevenson, and they fanboyed for Frank Martin. They're doing the same thing with Keyshawn Davis. In truth, it's I wonder how long it's going to take before they start hating on Abdullah Mason, because he's also a Top Rank. So in truth, it's going to be hard to imagine them supporting him. Don't be surprised if they start supporting the kid that trains with Floyd over Abdullah Mason, because of course he's with Floyd and the PBC, right? So this is a reality. We see this even right now from the LDBC side, who of course have dick rode fucking Devin Haney like crazy. And it's cool they like Devin Haney, but like they're doing these same extreme narratives that they did with Deontay Wilder, right? Over the top, ridiculous shit, acting as if the world's against Devin Haney. Yet Devin Haney is the one that's pulling most of the negative attention towards himself. So of course people are going to comment on it, right? But literally, these are the same guys that started to hate on Tank Davis, right? To defend and fanboy for Devin Haney. And don't get me wrong, I think what Devin Haney did, obviously at that age, is far more legacy-wise than what Tank Davis has done. But I think Tank Davis is a far more exciting fighter. Stylistically, he's way better to watch. And as far as them matching up head-to-head, I would favor Tank Davis to beat him. At one time, when Devin Haney was able to control distance with his jab and his feet, I probably would have picked him to win. But the fact that he's given up ground now, allowed fighters to get on the inside and land punches, whether we're talking about Jojo Diaz, Vasily Lomachenko, Ryan Garcia, I think if you do that with Tank Davis, you're getting fucking laid out, flat lined, right? But that's no hate. If you fight great fighters, that's always a risk you're going to take. But for him to cross over to make big fights, I appreciate that. That's the same thing Canelo Alvarez did, right? Of course, haters are going to ignore that. They fanboy and build up Devin Haney crossing over to make undisputed unification fight, but then they ignore and downplay Canelo Alvarez doing it. Yet both of these guys did what boxing fans want boxers to do. They did what they had to do to make a big fight. That's a lot of the criticism people have towards Tank, right? That was criticism people had towards Bud Crawford and Errol Spence. The fight got done, so you can't really hate on Crawford now. because he did get the fight done. He just did it his way. And the irony is, if that was a PBC fighter doing it, they would be supporting it. But because it's Bud Crawford, he's getting a lot of hate and negativity thrown at him, right? But we're going to listen to these two videos and just show you the hypocrisy and some of the false statements that these guys make. First, let's listen to Ego, because he's a clown to begin with, so it's always better to listen to the clown first, make you laugh. So he made a video today. Gervonta Tank Davis announces his next fight on social media, and he's praising Tank Davis, right? Because he's a Tank Davis fan and an anti-Shakur fan, a pro-Spence fan, an anti-Bud Crawford fan, right? That's consistently what he's shown himself to be on his channel. Pro-PBC, anti-ESPN, and DAZN. So in this video, he's praising Tank Davis for fighting Lamont Roach, right? And he talks about basically acting as if, Tank Davis is given no pass. He's being criticized, and it doesn't matter who he was going to fight. He was going to be ridiculed and criticized for whoever he fought, right? And then he points to Canelo Alvarez and said, how come Canelo can do whatever he wants without coming under scrutiny and criticism? Imagine him making a statement like that. If you actually watch boxing, you know that literally there's no boxer that gets more hate than Canelo Alvarez. None, right? Yet we just put him in the same group as Devin Haney, literally doing what he had to do to make an undisputed unification fight. Nobody else did that. Nobody else crossed over to another network, right, as the A side, specifically Canelo, who was leaps and bounds the A side over fucking Caleb Plant, whereas, Kambosos was probably more the A side over Devin Haney, at least outside of the U.S. In the U.S., Devin Haney would, of course, been more of the A side, but he still wasn't a big name at that time, so he had to do something to get the titles to build up his profile. He did what he had to do, right? But let's listen to this because, it is what it is. A load of crap, a load of shit, but nonetheless.
I've told you guys time and time again, in boxing, you have this thing called the A side. The A side calls the shots. When it's a black fighter like Gervonta Davis, this seems to be a problem with the...
Listen to what I just told you, and now, of course, the twist he puts on things. So Floyd Mayweather, as the A side, consistently always did what he wanted to do. Force guys to fight with certain gloves, give guys the paydays that he wanted to pay them, not necessarily huge paydays either, consistently controlled everything because he was the A side. I'm pretty sure he was also black, right? And now he says, oh, the reason Tank Davis is criticized, even though he's the A side, is because he's black. Whereas we know Canelo Alvarez gets criticized constantly. He just fought two undefeated top fighters who are both basically mandatories at 168 pounds back to back, right? Something other fighters get praised for doing, i.e. Tank Davis. He did it and got criticized like crazy for it, right? Because people were critical of this as a pay-per-view, even though he fought two opponents that sold. One Mexican opponent in Munguia, the fight did very well. And then, of course, Puerto Rico versus Mexico with Berlanga, right? We knew the selling point of that was the national rivalry, not so much the opponent. And apparently it did very well. It did better than the Munguia fight. So that's why the PBC pushed it. That's why Al Heyman signed off on these fights, right? And I'm pretty sure that Canelo Alvarez is the A side. Yet this is the same Canelo Alvarez that needs to leave the zone to cross over to the PBC to fight Caleb Plant, pay him $10 million to get an undisputed fight. Yet he was fucking so far above Caleb Plant as the A side. But to do what he wanted to do something legacy-wise, to do something significant, which was become the only undisputed 168-pound fighter in history, he did what he had to do. The criticism people throw at Tank is that he was protected by Floyd Mayweather. He didn't fight outside the platform. He didn't make the fights people wanted to. And they thought once he left Floyd, oh, maybe now he's going to have the opportunity to do what he hadn't done before. But he hasn't. He's done exactly the same thing he's always done. Fight the in-house fighter, as the A side in a pay-per-view that nobody was excited about and nobody was asking for. I've said this multiple times. Nothing wrong with Lamont Roach's opponent, but putting on pay-per-view again, it's a slap in the face of boxing fans, because we know consistently what you're going to do is consistently fight mid-tier opponents and put it on pay-per-view and force your PBC fanboys to pay $80 to $90 for it. And that's fine. The PBC fanboys deserve everything they get. But the irony is boxing fans weren't pushing for this fight. They weren't excited about this fight. We figure at this point of his career, him becoming 30 years old, it's about fucking time he did something significant, right? Canelo Alvarez, by the time he was 30 years old, what did he fucking do? Fought Golovkin, fought Lara, fought Trout, fought Mosley, fought fucking Mayweather, right? You know, he literally did super legacy moves by the same age as Tank Davis. But yet, Tank Davis is being criticized because he's black. Because it always comes back to race, right? This is always the go-to maneuver.
Usual suspects. When it's a guy like Canelo Alvarez and he has whatever quirks and demands that he wants, people seem to understand it. If he says...
The irony is these quirks and demands that Canelo Alvarez got, he got those after fighting a unification fight with Trout. Tank still hasn't unified. Fought a future Hall of Famer and pound-for-pound #1 fighter in Floyd Mayweather, right? And then following that, took on one of the most dangerous fighters at 154 in Erislandy Lara. So in between him moving to middleweight, where he fought Gennady Golovkin, the 3-belt unified middleweight champion, pound-for-pound top 10 fighter, sure, he had his 155-pound weight class. But the difference is Tank Davis is almost 30 years old. He's never had those legacy moves yet in his career. And he's still pulling all of this kind of garbage, pulling guys up in weight, draining guys down in weight, right? But you're going to compare Tank Davis to Canelo and what Canelo's able to do. Well, then you should compare fucking him to black fighter Floyd Mayweather, who also did what he wanted to do. Or Latino fighter Oscar De La Hoya, which did what he wanted to do, like what he did with Floyd Mayweather. Or like Sugar Ray Leonard, a black fighter, and what he did, right? You can see that there's a mix of black Latino fighters who use their A-side position to get exactly what they wanted in fights. It's nothing to do about being black. It's about, are you really an A-side guy? Are you really elite? And Canelo showed, even though he was A-side, he still was able to cross over to the other side of the street to make a fight happen. Tank Davis hasn't even offered somebody on the other side of the street significant money to make them cross over to fight him for legacy. Because if you're the A-side, isn't that what you should do? I'm just asking.
Sergey Kovalev, I'm putting you on a rehydration clause. People seemingly understand it. If the world wants to see him fight David Benavidez, and instead...
Imagine, he went up 2 weight divisions to fight Sergey Kovalev. 2 weight divisions. Think about how Lomachenko was criticized and ripped, right, for fighting Rigo coming up 2 weight divisions. How Spence was ripped for pulling Mikey Garcia up 2 weight divisions. Canelo jumped up 2 weight divisions and put a rehydration clause on Kovalev, right? Going to his 4th weight division. Well, his 5th weight division in his career, but his 4th for a world title. Tank Davis, in his 2nd weight division, without a world title, right, pulled Ryan Garcia down from 140 and put a rehydration clause on him for no legitimate title, for a WBA regular belt. Now that's a legacy move. Of course, none of us hated it because we knew financially it would sell. But of course, Tank Davis got a pass on that because we understood the financial aspect to it, right? When Canelo Alvarez fights guys and we know the financial aspect to it, people still hate on it. even though he is leaps and bounds the A side above fucking Tank Davis.
He picks Munguia, and then after that picks Edgar Berlanga, who really didn't deserve the Canelo opportunity.
But Ryan Garcia deserved a Tank Davis opportunity. Ryan Garcia deserved a Tank Davis opportunity more than Munguia, more than Berlanga, right? This is where you show the complete racial double standard for channels like this. We gave Tank Davis a pass on Ryan because we knew it was a big money fight. I gave Floyd Mayweather a pass on Conor McGregor because I knew it was a big money fight. Just like I give Canelo Alvarez a pass because I understood Munguia and Berlanga sold pay-per-views. They were marketable names. Whether hardcore boxing fans really thought they had a chance, that's a different thing. But as far as the fan base behind both of them, they knew that would sell pay-per-view, and it did. Both pay-per-views were very successful. Not as successful as Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia, but nonetheless, very successful.
Most people believe no one has a problem with it. If Canelo brings up Amir Khan in weight, like he...
Think about that. So he's pulling up the Amir Khan situation, even though that was fucking, 10 years ago. And in between pulling up Amir Khan to fight him at 155, he just fought Floyd Mayweather, Erislandy Lara, and Trout, who had just beat Cotto. And then after beating Khan, he went up and beat Cotto, and then beat Golovkin. And Danny Jacobs. That's what he did, bookending his fight with Amir Khan. Of course, we don't know what Tank Davis is going to do on the other side of these fights, but we know what he did prior to that, and it wasn't fucking anything significant. Not one pound-for-pound fighter on his fucking resume. Not one. Not one unification fight on his resume. Not one. But we're going to compare Tank Davis to Canelo Alvarez and think that he deserves to be respected and treated like Canelo does, even though Canelo catches way more heat than Tank Davis does.
To a catch weight, make no mistake about it, there's no 155-pound weight class. The weight class he fought Amir Khan, who had no chin in the lighter weight classes. Fast forward to the future, he did it again with Jermell Charlo, brought Jermell Charlo up 2 weight classes, where he
brought Charlo up 2 weight classes. Yet Charlo, Andrade were 3 fighters that people had talked about Golovkin and Canelo ducking for the last decade. See, that's the irony. When guys get what they want, then they still complain about it, right? If he didn't fight Charlo, people would say he's ducking Charlo. But if he does fight Charlo and embarrasses Charlo, oh, well, then he pulled him up 2 weight divisions. Well, Errol Spence pulled fucking Mikey Garcia up 2 weight divisions. Where was the criticism for him? There was none. Because Canelo gets more hate than the rest of these black American fighters do. That's just a fact.
He was a champion 2 divisions below at 154 pounds.
Undisputed.
Again, all of these things nobody has a problem with. They just chalk it up to the game.
Listen to him. He says nobody has a problem with it. Yet he's got 100 videos criticizing Canelo Alvarez. Dante's got 100 videos criticizing Canelo. There's videos all over the internet doing nothing but criticizing Canelo Alvarez. Whenever I talk about Canelo Alvarez on my channel, all that comes back is hate and criticism towards Canelo Alvarez. Now, David Benavidez is finally doing what we wanted to do already, fight Morrell. That was a fight they should have did at 168. Just like the Plant fight that should have happened before Canelo knocked Plant out. Just like fucking he should have fought Zurdo, Smith, right? There was a slew of champions in that weight division that he never fought until, oh, I want Canelo and he's ducking me. Yeah, okay. Let's see how big the pay-per-view is for Morrell and fucking David Benavidez. Great fight. Hardcore fans going to love it. But that shit ain't going to sell. Nobody knows who David Benavidez is. Nobody knows who David Morrell is.
Canelo is...
And David Morrell, he's done more than Berlanga and Munguia? No, he hasn't. Go look at his resume. His resume ain't better than Berlanga's. No fucking chance. But David Benavidez is going to be praised for taking on Morrell by hardcore boxing fans. Yet Canelo Alvarez was criticized and hated on for fighting Berlanga. And I guarantee you, Berlanga Canelo pay-per-view is going to sell at least 3 times more than Morrell and fucking Benavidez. That tells you everything you need to know about why the fight happened.
The star, and he gets to call the shots. But there's nobody bigger than Tank in or around these divisions.
So what he's saying is Tank Davis should be able to pull down the 140-pound WBA champion to a catchweight to allow Tank Davis to win his title to become a 3-weight world champion by pulling the champion down. Sure, unless the champion says, fuck you, I ain't interested, which is his right. Ryo doesn't have to fight Tank Davis. He don't need Tank Davis. He probably get his biggest payday to fight Tank Davis, but he might get a big payday not fighting Tank Davis, fighting Haney, fighting Ryan, fighting fucking Teo, right? There's opponents at that division he can still do pay-per-views with, right? Without being pulled down in weight. So Tank Davis doesn't have to go to 140, but Ryo doesn't have to fucking come down either, right? So yeah, Tank Davis is the A side. He doesn't need to go up. Good. Don't fucking go up. And then consistently be criticized because you're not fighting anybody that people want to see you fight. Because who are you going to fight at 135? If you don't get Lomachenko, you're fucked. You better pray in 2025 you get Lomachenko. Because if you don't get Lomachenko, you got nothing. Nothing. Who are you going to fight? In the comment section below, you're a lovey Tank Davis fan? Then tell me, if he doesn't get Loma, he ain't going to get Shakur, because Shakur's on DAZN, he's going to fight Zepeda. So if he doesn't get fucking Loma, who Loma potentially might fight Keyshawn Davis, in-house ESPN fight, right? For unification. Then who's Tank Davis going to fight? Let me know. Let me know what great name at 135 pounds Tank Davis is going to fight to continue to build his legacy.
Nobody in recent boxing can even say that it did over 1 million pay-per-views outside of Tank and Ryan Garcia. And then before that, Canelo, before that, Floyd Mayweather.
I'm pretty sure Fury and Usyk just did over 1 million pay-per-view buys on theirs. I'm pretty sure fucking Daniel Dubois and AJ definitely did more than fucking 1 million pay-per-view buys on theirs. So I don't know what you're talking about. Right? Yeah, those were great numbers. But literally, that's one fight Tank Davis had with Ryan Garcia that did 1 million pay-per-view buys. Every other fight he's had has done less than 300,000, less than 250.
Right. So he's the youngest in charge. He's clearly the biggest in those weight classes. But you talk to people and they say, oh, man, Tank, he needs to do this. He needs to move up. No one else needs to move up. Like, in a way, better and bigger opportunities are available to him.
Oh, so now he brings up Inouye. Of course, there's a reason I hate. Inouye, unlike Tank Davis, has already came through 5 weight divisions. He has world titles in 4, but he's come up through 5, right? 108, skipped 112, 115, 118, 122. And 112 was in there, but he didn't fight Roman Gonzalez. But bigger opportunities are available for him if he keeps moving up. What, to move up to 135 to fight Tank fucking Davis in his 6th, 7th, 8th weight division? So Inouye needs to go up to his 8th weight division to get a Tank Davis pay-per-view, but Tank Davis can't go to 140. Yet Inouye is a way bigger superstar in Japan than fucking Tank Davis is in America. It ain't fucking close. It ain't close. Tank Davis ain't fucking getting nearly as much attention in America as Inouye gets in Japan. Inouye is a fucking superstar. Him and Shohei Ohtani, the 2 biggest fucking Japanese athletes in the world. superstars. He never has to leave Japan, but he will, right? And the irony is, oh, he's got bigger opportunities, but he doesn't need to move up. He already moved up fucking 4 weight divisions. Tank Davis has moved up 3 and then jumped back down, and now doesn't want to move back up to his 3rd weight division because he's the A side. Like, listen to this shit. You tell me, what bigger fight does Inouye have at 126? At 130, there's no big fight. At 135, okay, there's Tank. But he's going to go to 135? Tank Davis can't go to 140. Like, if you want to hold Tank Davis to the same criticism as fucking Inouye, you should be pushing his ass up to 154 to fight Bud Crawford on pay-per-view. Then it would be a similar situation to Inouye. Inouye is going to fight Junto Nakatani, which is going to be the fucking Super Bowl of Japanese boxing, right? Inouye has no Super Bowl of American boxing, not unless he fights fucking an elite top fighter, pound for pound quality dude coming off of great wins, which is not Haney, not Teo, not Shakur, because right now none of them look that good or that hot, right? Even though they're all big names, none of them look like superstars right now. So that fight would be big, but it's not comparable to fucking Junto Nakatani and Inouye in Japan. That shit is going to be fucking crazy. Over 60,000 people in the Tokyo Dome. Who does Tank Davis need to fight to sell out 60,000 in America? He sells out 20 and people act like fucking he's a superstar, a rock star. I'm a rock star.
The more he moves up, but he don't have to move up. He could just do whatever he wants, fight whatever division he wants, so on and so forth. So we know what it is. So,
like, listen to this. How can you call yourself a boxing channel when you're so full of shit? You're like comparing Tank Davis to fucking Canelo Alvarez, who literally is the most accomplished boxer in the sport today, easily. And Inouye, who's become a 2-weight undisputed champion, something only Bud Crawford and Usyk have done. Whereas Tank Davis has never unified a fucking title before. He's already come through 5 weight divisions. Tank Davis has went through 3. But yet Inouye needs to move up to his 6th. But Tank Davis can't move back to his 3rd because moving back to his 3rd will be too difficult, too complicated. But Inouye got to move up to 126, right, to fight who? What superstar fighters at 126 again? I mean, I know fucking Ego don't know because Ego fucking ain't really that hardcore into boxing. At 130, there's no superstar fucking fighter from at 130. Navarrete lost. Maybe if Navarrete had won, maybe that would be a big fight, but not now. So he needs to move to 135 to fight Tank Davis. Really? Oh, okay.
it is what it is. I like to fight. It's a in-betweener because you couldn't get the Lomachenkos, you couldn't get the Rios, you couldn't get, Pitbull lost.
So it's in-betweener. So who's he going to fight next? If he doesn't get Lomachenko, who's he going to fight next? And in truth, at this point, I hope Lomachenko fights Keyshawn Davis. I hope Keyshawn fights Lomachenko's countryman, beats him, wins the WBA title, and then Lomachenko fights him in unification. Right? In-house ESPN fight. Because that's what Tank Davis does. All in-house fights. So why shouldn't Lomachenko do the same thing? Because Lomachenko don't need Tank Davis. But Tank Davis sure as fucking hell needs him.
Teofimo is in a legal battle video on the channel with his own promote fraud, against Golden Boy and Ryan Garcia. Shakur Stevenson pulled out of his scheduled fight that was supposed to come up.
So Bud Crawford said black YouTubers hating on black American fighters, right? We know Dante hated on Shakur, criticized Shakur because he was praising Bam Rodriguez. So Shakur praising a fighter who wasn't black came under scrutiny by a black YouTuber because heaven fucking forbid you fucking praise a non-black fighter because you're not pushing race politics like I need you to, right? You're looking past race and just being a boxing fan. Fuck that shit. So of course Dante shit all over Shakur, and Shakur fucking went at him and called him a fucking bitch, which he should. And now just let's listen to more of Ego.
This week on the Better Be of Bevo card, right? And he pulled out of it. He was bringing up a guy in weight. Nobody cared about it except for me.
Oh, so Ego didn't want Shakur to pull up somebody from 130 pounds to fight them. He was critical of that, but he's happy with Tank Davis pulling up a guy from 130. The hypocrisy, right? I pointed out the fact that, this would be the second fighter that Shakur faced coming off of a loss. Not a great look, right? Not something that's going to make boxing fans super excited about what you're doing in the sport. Because I ain't trying to hate on Shakur, but I'm keeping it real. All these people that always pushing race narratives never even mentioned it. Didn't even care. He says he was against the Cordina fight, but he's all pro for the Lamont Roche fight. As if there's a difference.
Right? Joe Cordova, Dina, whatever, right? And he's out for the season. He's out for the rest of the year. His own words. He threw a body shot, posted the video, or the video leaked some kind of way. And guess what? Shakur said, ow! And then, threw the body shot. And then he was crippled in pain, rolling around. So, again, you have to ask these usual suspects, what do they want from Tank? When Lomachenko said...
Listen to that. So then, of course, he's got to belittle and shit on Shakur. Ow! Injuries happen. You got to belittle and demean Shakur Stevenson because he injured himself in training. Shit happens, man. It is what it is. You didn't hear me hating on him because he got injured. Because why would I? Fighters get hurt. It fucking happens. Do I need to see an x-ray? No. Because unlike fucking you, I ain't fucking hating on dudes because they get injured. Injuries happen in boxing. Same way fucking Better Be have hurt his knee. I don't complain about it. Fucking Shakur hurts his hand. It is what it is. Fighters consistently are going to get hurt because what they're doing is a fucking extreme sport, right? Extreme. But of course, here's another Black American content creator belittling a black fighter, even though he's trying to push this racial narrative on his channel. Now let's listen to Dante, because of course, he's the worst. He's literally criticizing Bud Crawford because of Bud Crawford's opinion. Because instead of Bud Crawford pointing fingers at all non-black boxing fans as being racist and hating on all American black fighters, which of course is what, JB and Dante and Ego and Ake and the LDBC consistently try to push, even though nobody hates on black fighters more than them. The LDBC, if you don't get along to fucking get along, they're going to fucking throw you under the bus as a coon. They've done that with everyone. Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, fucking Bernard Hopkins, Timothy Bradley. The list goes on. Mike Tyson, right? Any black American boxer who goes against their narrative has been called a coon and worse, right? So what Bud Crawford says is fucking accurate, 100% true. Does this mean that non-black boxing fans don't hate on black boxers? Of course not. Of course there's guys that hate on black boxers. We see it all the time on YouTube as well. But I don't see nearly as many big channels doing it as I do Black American channels, like big channels with big audiences, primarily Black American audiences, yet still they go out of their way to criticize and hate on black boxers. I expect them to hate on all non-black boxers because that's what consistently they do. They ignore them or they hate on them. They call them fucking hope lists, cherry picks, media created, any negative thing you could say to demean them, that's what they push, right? So in truth, why would you think other races wouldn't do the same thing to black Americans that you do to everybody else, right? You can't be critical of people doing the same thing you do. That's what I tell JB. Like literally nobody hates as much as you do. So how can you then point fingers at other people? That's the biggest hypocrisy I've ever seen. But let's listen to Bud Crawford.
And hadn't even fought in America yet. It's kind of amazing when you think about the fact that Terrence Crawford and Chocolatito Gonzalez are almost the same age today. And Crawford.
There you go. Of course, you got to hate on Chocolatito. Why you got to hate on him? He said he wasn't being respected until he fought in America. But he fought in America before you even knew who he was. When he fought Juan Francisco Estrada the first time, right? But these guys are so stupid, they don't know anything about boxing, especially when you're so focused on one demographic of boxer, and then you just assume everyone else is garbage and you don't even study the sport, right?
Is still undefeated, and he's still considered the best fighter in the world. Now let's go into this next clip of Terrence Crawford.
Is he considered the best, or is that Usyk or Inouye? Because a lot of Black American fight fans just shit all over Bud Crawford and his less than impressive performance against Madrimov, right, to become a 4-weight world champion. I didn't, but a lot of Black American channels did, right? Because they consistently have hated on Crawford. They consistently shit on his resume, consistently shit on his legacy.
Explaining why Black fighters like Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, and himself receive so much hate in the boxing world.
And when you look at it, it's our people that's coming at him and slandering him. Yeah. You know what I mean? When you look at Terrence Crawford, it's our people that's coming slandering me. Yeah. That's trying to belittle me. Yeah.
Yeah. Errol Spence fans, Black American YouTubers, Black American boxing fans. Who was hating on Devin Haney? Tank Davis fans. Whereas Devin Haney fans, Black fans, hating on Tank Davis. Bud Crawford fans, Black Americans, hating on Errol Spence. Right? It's like the Crips and the Bloods. Black on black hate. But yet, of course, it's my fault. Because it's always our fault. Because somehow I'm organizing the groups. You know, it's me behind everything. You know, I'm the one doing it. I only wish I had that much power. Wow. To have that much power. I'd be like a Rockefeller, for fuck's sakes. But that ain't true. The only person I command is Lily. And that's not even all the time. Mostly she's commanding me.
When you look at Shakur Stevenson, because he boxed his way through a fight. Yeah. It's our people that's criticizing him when it's called boxing. Yeah. I don't care if you hit like a tomahawk truck, you know what I mean, or you hit like a bumblebee.
Tomahawk rocket.
Or you hit like a butterfly. Yeah. As long as you get the job done, that's all that matters. Because we got fighters that punch hard, and you got fighters that don't. Yeah. You know, if you're blessed with it, you're blessed with it. If you're not, you're not. Yeah. The fact of the matter is, the game is called boxing. Yeah. As long as we get the win and look good doing so, you know. I just never understood why Black media always give so much criticism to the Black fighter. I never understood that.
Now, Terrence Crawford is...
And we've seen Crawford confront people, specifically LDBC channels and others, Dante and others, because of the bullshit they push consistently on their channels, right? Look what Knockout Boxing did fucking for more than a year as a Errol Spence dick rider. He fucking made up tons of narratives to shit all over Bud Crawford, only to fucking eat that shit and be fucking humiliated and embarrassed and, you know, never be able to live that shit down. Yeah, that must be tough, buddy. But it is what it is, right? But, you know, the irony is this video is proving Bud Crawford's fucking point. Because who's hating on him for having an opinion? A Black YouTube channel, right? Because he's not pushing the right fucking narrative. If he was pushing, it's all Whitey's fault, Mexicans and Whiteys hating on Black fighters, all those racist pricks, Dante would be fucking knob gobbling fucking Bud Crawford like crazy. You know it, and I know it.
Right about Black people that attack Black fighters. There are too many. And when I say too many, it's not the majority. I wouldn't even say it's half. It's just a big percentage. Even if it's 20%, that's too many Black folks. But you're always going to have coons. You're always going to have Black people that attack.
Oh, so now it's coons, right? Again, Black on Black hate. This is the problem. So now anyone that has a different opinion than you is a coon. They're working for the man, right? They're watchdogs for white America, right? Like literally, you create this narrative pushing this kind of BS. People can have a different opinion. It is what it is. The problem is guys like this act as if you can't have an opinion different than them. That's the problem.
A black fighter that's at the top of the sport, but even outside of boxing, you're always going to have a coon that attacks the most relevant, significant black person. But what Terrence Crawford is not understanding is, why do they attack black people? Why do they attack these black boxers? It's because they're catering to the racists, which are 99% of the non-black boxing fans. I mean, what is a coon?
Oh, yeah. It's 99% of the racist people on YouTube are non-black YouTube channels. Yet, if you scroll and go across the whole YouTube and find every single boxing channel, primarily the majority of them are Black Americans, right? That's the majority of channels, and they're on one side or the other, primarily. Of course, you have a small minority that aren't. Wave and, Ade, who's obviously English, a lot of English guys obviously don't fall into that, right? The whole LDBC and every channel associated with them is just like fucking Dante and Ego and Ake, right? Exactly the same, consistently using race to push their fucking narratives to get AdSense off of YouTube, right? And how many LDBC channels are there? Shitloads. Tons. And for every big channel, you got JB channel, small, worthless, nobody listens to, but still peddling the same BS, consistently only focused on race.
I mean, a coon basically acts as an attack dog. It's the attack dog that these racists sick on black people. It is their best weapon against the black race. I remember, what was it, like 10 years ago?
Listen to this. And now what's he going to do? He's going to tell us a story about fucking Floyd Mayweather. Because once again, if you're a black person who didn't like Floyd Mayweather, you're the problem. Because everybody that was black had to like Floyd Mayweather, right? Sorry. That's part of being a black man in America. Just like every black American got to vote Democrat, because otherwise you're not a real black. Isn't that what Joe Biden said? If you don't vote for me, you're not really black. Like literally he said that. Do you forget? Right? And that's the same here. If you don't agree with me, you're not black. You're a coon. You're fucking being controlled by the white man, right? Like this mentality is fucking ridiculous. And that's the problem. This kind of shit. This is what drove so many boxing fans away from YouTube and boxing completely, because of the constant necessity to make everything racial, right? Bud Crawford's a black man that has an opinion. You may not agree with it, but you also don't need to fucking shut him down, right? And now we're going to have to hear a story about fucking Floyd Mayweather, because literally this is what this guy did his whole fucking career. Tied himself together with Floyd, Dick rode everything Floyd did, and literally shit all over Manny Pacquiao's legacy, and then wondered why Pacquiao fans would attack him and attack Floyd. The same way you attack Pacquiao is the same reason Pacquiao fans attacked you, right? Exactly the same. This guy even defended Floyd when Floyd threw out racial remarks towards Pacquiao, talking about eating cats and fucking all kinds of other fucking racially fucking insensitive shit towards Asians. But that's okay, right? It's okay. It's okay to be racist against others, because remember, blacks cannot be racist. So if you can't be racist, that means literally you can say whatever you want and you're free of criticism, right? The reality is there's too many sensitive souls, too many manipulative pricks, and too many race baiters on YouTube that would rather push this kind of shit as opposed to talk about literally boxing. Like, here is Dante's last boxing video. So, it's official. David Benavidez, Morel. Run away. Bostic advises Bivol to run from better BF. Literally, that's the one video he made yesterday, 5 minutes, right? And then the rest of it is all stuff pushing the same narratives, talking the same old shit, right here. The blatant double standard. in America.
You're watching
In America, but he's big in Jamaica, but he's big in Ghana. We know for a fact that if there was a black 122-pound fighter, not only would they not be defending him, but old media wouldn't even be talking about him. You see, no?
The irony is there was a black 122-pound champion, and that was Stephen Fulton, a unified black champion. And guys like Dante and the rest of these black channels on YouTube never even fucking talked about him. But it's old media's fault, right? Because it's always passing the buck. It's always pointing fingers. It's always making everything racial, right? You know, you have big fights happening this weekend. In Japan, a doubleheader with Inui's brother, Junto Nakatani. Great card. I'll be talking about that more tomorrow live. So jump in, join me. It should be fun. And of course, then you have Better BF Bivol's card. I mean, that is one of the best fights, if not the best fight of 2024. Undisputed light heavyweight unification. The first time it's been done in the 4-belt era. The first time it's been done since Roy Jones did it in the 3-belt era. But these channels aren't even talking about it. Even though if you go on YouTube, it's being talked about a lot. But you won't find much from Ego, Dante, JB, the LDBC, right? These guys somehow won't talk about it. Look, I mean, knockout. It's all what? Devin Haney, Tank Davis, Devin Haney, Tank Davis. You wouldn't even know there's a fucking undisputed unification fight coming. Tank Davis, Tank Davis, Shakur, Tank Davis, Devin Haney. Right? Same old shit constantly. Going over the same fucking path. Day in, day out. Right? And then we find who? Ego. Let's see what Ego got. How many fucking great videos does he have talking about Better BF and Bivol? None. Clickbait. Gervonta Davis, Devin Haney lawsuit, Ryan Garcia, Oscar De La Hoya, Errol Spence, Keyshawn Davis, Devin Haney, Gervonta Davis, Devin Haney, Oscar De La Hoya, Liam Paro, and Richard Hitchens gets a mention. Softus Sharman, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Lopez, Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, Lopez, Devin Haney, Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, Bud Crawford, Devin Haney, Terrence Crawford, Jamel Charlo, Demetrius Andrade. Shocking. So, but where's the undisputed unification fight? How come we're not talking about that? Of course we wouldn't, because we are boxing channels. Oh, sorry, we're not really boxing channels. What we are is race bait, clickbait channels that fucking try to create controversy wherever we go so we can make more money in AdSense. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you tomorrow for my breakdown of that doubleheader card out of Japan. It should be fun.